Mind focus. Hi, look at me. Why are you not? Focus on me. Great, now it's tracking me. Hi witchlings, welcome back to my channel. It's me, your local chaotic witch aunt, and today I am sharing my experience with connecting for herbal allies. I'm not gonna have a set structure to this because I feel like when I talk about my experiences specifically with herbal allies, it just kind of goes where it wants to go and it goes where it needs to go. So that's the plan for today, is I'm not gonna tell you about like specific things in a specific order. I'll give some background information. So this journey was part of the Root Circles de la Medicina course, which is working to connect with ancestral herbal allies. You don't have to be Italian to take it, but the ancestral allies are like Italian, Roman, Greek. They are found in Italy and or Greece, mostly Italy. And they are plants that have a really strong role and are really important in Italian folk magic. I took the part 1 to this course last year, and the part 2, as soon as it came out, I was like, I'm doing this. And so I was in this course from starting like late December, maybe early January, into end of, I think actually it may have been November. It went for a long time. We went with like, there are like six herbal allies you work with, and you have a month with bi-weekly meetings, or like we have like a meeting every 2 weeks. So you have 2 weeks to connect with these herbal allies, and then we get together and of course it's run by the Root Circle, which I will put her information down below. I love her. But during those 2 weeks, you're kind of taking the flower essence of this plant and you're literally ingesting something that is a vibrational energy of the plant, and you're just seeing what happens. And it really is like, there are experiences that you have with physically ingesting a plant. Even the flower essence, which by the way does not contain any plant matter, it's just like an energetic way of connecting with the plant. Because a lot of people, I think I mentioned once that like flower essence is the only way you can consume belladonna. Someone was like, you can't consume belladonna. And I'm like, no, you're right, you can't consume belladonna, but that's not what I said. The flower essence is the only way to consume belladonna safely because there is no plant matter in it. It's like you take a bowl of spring water, you dip the flower in it, then you take it out and then you break it down even more. So there are a lot of things like Banefolk makes poisonous plant flower essences because it's the only way that you can ingest it. And if you are someone like me, where in order to kind of get to know a plant and form a relationship and figure out what that plant wants to teach you, I typically like working with flower essences. It's easier for me to watch the way in which my body changes and what experiences I have throughout those 2 to 4 weeks, and kind of go from there in forming a relationship with the plant rather than just kind of sitting down and meditating with it. So that for me, flower essences are the best way for me to connect, because whenever I take them, things happen. Things might happen in my body, things happen in my spiritual space, my emotional space, my mental space. And because of that, I had the craziest time. I'll kind of talk a little bit about what it was like in some of my relationships that have come out of these classes. The first class, I connected with Rue in a way that I hadn't before, and during that first part 1 class, I did have an experience that was like Rue stepping forward in a lot of ways to become more present in my practice. Okay, so the plants we connected with: belladonna, fennel, mullein, mallow, rose. These are just some. Parsley. Some of the ones in the first one were like garlic, rue, basil. A lot of these plants, like I said, are very important in Italian folk magic, and that has been filtered down through, you know, ancient Greek teachings, ancient Roman beliefs. Some of these things that we work with are also like native to Italy. Some of them are not. St. John's wort was another flower essence that we took at the other course, and I didn't St. John's wort and I don't have a bad relationship, but I don't necessarily go out of my way to work with him. And that's primarily because after taking this course, I was like, you know what, my primary plants that I want to work with in my practice are gonna be the plants that you can find in my ancestor's hometown. And most of those are native. There are a few that are invasive that I try not to work with. This class, I think that if there's anyone sitting here watching this being like, I want to take a class about ancestral herbal allies, take this class. Take it. It's so worth it. It's so worth the money. It is so worth the time you put into it. Lisa, the head of the Root Circle, is literally just such an amazing person. She has so much knowledge to share with us, and it's like I am completely blown away by her every time I take a class with her. Every time she makes an Instagram post, I'm like, what? I love her. So along with these I can't actually talk about some of the things that we did in this course. And what I mean by that is this is not my knowledge. The lessons that we received, the information that we received is not necessarily mine to share. 1. 2, some of my relationships with these herbs are not meant to be shared. I talked with a friend about this recently, where there are 2 main herbs that I work with, and one of them is so open and so willing to like let me show that relationship and my work with her to everyone and teach people about it and talk about it, and the other one's like, no, this is just for us. And I think that also very much reflects the entities that they represent in a lot of ways in my work with those entities. And so, I mean, part of it is that I'm not going to tell you the things that are presented in these lessons. I'm not going to talk to you about like the private information that was passed down or given to the people in that class, because in that way, not only is it not fair to this amazing person who runs these classes, because then people are getting knowledge that, you know, she put behind a paywall for free, and she put behind a paywall for a reason, because it's amazing, but also because it isn't fair to anyone else who paid to attend these courses and put time and money and energy into investing into these relationships and investing into these classes and receiving information and knowledge from the teacher and from Lisa and from these ancestral herbal allies. This is something that I think everyone should do in their own way, but it is not something that I can give to you. I cannot give you my experience, or at least most of them. I can't explain to you exactly what happened in my body or how this herb kind of showed up for me. And I can't really, I don't know, I can't like break it. There are things that are, you just need to do it yourself. You need to experience it yourself. And in part, that is why I am talking about this, because I hope other people start researching flower essences and communing with plants in this wonderful and amazing way. I also hope a lot of people see this and then seek out the Root Circle and her content. It's amazing. And then I also hope that people hear me talking about some of these plants in my relationship, they can find something in the lesson that this plant has taught me, that this plant is showing up for me, in the way this plant is showing up for me. Hello, he's having a dream. Benji, you have a nice dream? You're a baby. So I have permission I can talk about my relationship with Fennel. I can talk about my relationship with Rose. I cannot talk about Belladonna. Belladonna and I, that's a very personal. I could talk a bit about Mullein. I will say this too, in this course, I realized that there were herbs that I did not get along with, which is crazy. You think you're gonna walk in and every herb wants to work with you, but many of them are like, no. And even when they say no, there's still a lesson to be taught there. One of the herbs I didn't get along with was mallow, common mallow, which is wild because I work with mallow all the time in spell work, specifically in one of my oils that I make. But I found that I have to work with mallow in very specific situations. When I ingested mallow as a flower essence, I didn't have a bad experience, but I didn't have a good experience either. I was exhausted for 2 days straight. Like I didn't know what was happening, and I stopped taking the flower essence and I was fine. There's no explainable thing for this because the flower essence was literally just like glycerin and water. Like there was nothing in it that would have caused me to have that kind of reaction. When I've been sick, I will ingest mallow for tea. It helps with my congestion, and I mean, there's a level to mallow that is, you know, cooling, wet, and I don't think that I needed anything cooling and wet on those days, which is why it kind of made me very lethargic. However, when my body is running a temperature, when I have a cold and there's a lot of heat, there's a lot of inflammation in my body, mallow is perfect for me. And I think that's one of the things is that when we look at the like energetics of plants in an herbalist sense and not just as well as in a magical sense, the energies and the experiences we have with plants magically will oftentimes reflect their medicinal properties. And mallow definitely did that for me. It's not that mallow and I don't get along, it's that mallow wants to work with me in specific situations, but we're not going to do well together, and mallow's not going to help me if I don't need it. So mallow is the common mallow or marshmallow root is really amazing in tea. And when I'm sick, when I feel my throat kind of starting to get sore, I will drink a lot of mallow tea to kind of help with that inflammation and lubricate everything. Very similar to mullein, although mallow, I believe mallow is the more wet, like, and cooling, I believe, of the two. It's like moist in the 4th degree when we look at the 4 humors, whereas mullein, also moist, also cooling, but more focused on the respiratory system. I had very different experiences with mallow and mullein. Mallow is a plant that made it clear to me that it wanted to work with me when I was having a physical illness, and mullein is a plant that made it clear to me that it wants to work with me when I'm having illness of the heart, when I am experiencing heartache, when I am dealing with grief. Mullein is also regarded as really good grief medicine and grief healing in many different cultures. It's not just Italian folk magic. I was surprised by how mallow basically was like, come back later, and mullein was like, you are holding a lot. You're holding a lot of emotions and you're carrying it with you. I cried a lot while taking mullein flower essence because I don't have that kind of emotional regulation a lot of the time. I don't cry a lot. If something is upsetting to me, if I'm experiencing grief, if I'm experiencing sadness, sorrow, anger, I carry it with me. I don't let it go. And mullein, also known as like the term grandfather mullein, is a term that was come up with during class that I really like. But grandfather mullein came to me and almost like sat me down and was like, you need to release this. I cried over the weirdest things that week. I cried watching a TikTok video of a comic about the Triassic cuddle. I cried about a dog dying on the internet. I cried because we were out of, like, I just had so much that needed to go. And mullein recognized that and just made sure it cleared out. This also lines up with mullein's herbal values. Very good for the respiratory system, very good for the lungs, which is right around the heart. Anything that you're holding in your chest and anything that's kind of blocking this energetic space, mullein will move. And the thing with mullein is it's not necessarily gentle, and I'm okay with that. I think with mullein, there's a sense to it that it depends on how willing you are to release what you're holding. If you are not willing, like me, you're just not willing to release it and you hold on to it until the very last second, and then one thing makes you cry and then you're crying about everything. Mullein it'll be more of a shove. People who are more likely to let their emotions out more freely have a less severe experience. For me, I had a rough time. So mullein for me is grief medicine. When I feel like I'm carrying things, etc., I go to mullein and I ask to help me release. Hold on, I gotta drink water. Hydration is key. So mullein and mallow for me, they have similar energetics, but I had very different experiences with them. And that goes down to, you know, their medicinal properties and their spiritual properties. So those are some examples of some of the experiences I had while working with these herbs and ingesting them. What happened overall is I decided to open a shop. I had been planning it for a while, and working with fennel was the push that I needed. We worked with fennel, and then I started making my own amaro bitters, like herbal bitters. And from there, I just started experimenting more with oils and creating spiritual things, because fennel to me is this herb. I don't know why I connected with fennel and focused on like creating, but that's what happened. And I think part of it is fennel is in so many like important ingestibles, like amaro bitters. It's a digestive. You can drink fennel tea to help with digestion. It's a very bitter. I worked with fennel, and I'm like, you know what? I think I should give these things that I'm making to people. And not just that, I think I should create something around this. And it was this sudden push that started in February, beginning of February, where I wasn't just like, oh, I'm just making oils for myself and for fun. It was like, no, I'm making this to give to people. Fennel and this kind of aspect of creation was something that I didn't expect. I didn't expect to ingest this plant that I've barely worked with and I very much slept on, and suddenly just feel this pull to work with my hands, to no longer do things that drain my energy for work, but to do things that I really thoroughly enjoy and feel good about. And since then, that's kind of just been the vibe I have adapted from fennel, is this: I am not settling for something that doesn't make that I don't enjoy. It was very much it was an experience. And I still don't fully understand, even in researching fennel, where this sudden pull to create products and oils and waters and like traditional charm bags for people to create a shop based around it. I don't know where that pull came from. It may be that fennel was just one of those things that was very used a lot by my like human ancestors and my family, and that they're pushing me to do that. But overall, fennel did like give me that final push that this is what I want to do, this is what I want to create, and I want to provide these creations to people. From there, most of, if not my spiritual connection with these oils that I've created is insane. It's not just working with the spirit of the oil itself, but every spirit within it, which is a lot of ancestral allies. It is a lot of herbal allies that I have spent a long time working with, some a little less time, and how they've kind of affected me, and each one is kind of invoked, is breathed life into. It is just brought forward before being put in the oil and just completely brought in to my life. There were a lot of other herbs that, you know, I worked with, one of which was rose. And my relationship with rose is one that I'm very comfortable talking about, and that I know I have permission to talk about publicly. Some of these herbs, like I said, my relationship with them is it's not fully formed. It's one that I don't yet understand. I don't understand the lesson the plant has for me yet. And because of that, I don't want to share, and I don't feel like the plant wants me to share either. Like I said, the plant that my relationship, like rose is the plant that is, the relationship is out in the open. I can talk about it, I can share things, I can like encourage other people to explore rose. Rue and I's relationship is no. I think there's a lot Rue has taught me, there's a lot Rue has brought to the table and assisted me in and continues to assist me with every day. I wear her every day, but it is not a relationship that I am allowed to share or open to sharing. The kind of progress that I have made with Rue is really just, I can be vague about it. Like, I always describe Rue and Rose as two sides of the same coin, similar to the entities that they represent for me, which is Mary and Diana. We have one side that is kind of like the best friend who will give you tough love and may not always be there, like when it's gonna tell you, can you fix this problem yourself? Okay. There's always a very strong protective energy with Rue, but Rose is so hands-on and Rue is like, call me if you need me to beat a bitch up. And also, don't beat yourself up. Like the vibe of like someone comes up to you and you're like, stop talking about my friend that way. That's Rue. Rose, on the other hand, sits you down and is like, why are you talking about yourself that way? Let's dive deeper into that. Two very different vibes. Like I said, one of which is a little bit more quiet. The things that I work with Rue are the similar things that I work with Diana. I use Rue to both connect with Rue the plant and Diana in the same way that I use Rose to connect with Mary and Rose itself. Rose was the plant that I took, was the herbal ally I found that I was not expecting. I've never given Rose as much thought. I've never really spent a lot of time working with Rose in any form. And ingesting this flower essence was very much like being given exactly what I needed at each moment. Which is kind of how you know you find one of your major like herbal allies, is it's not just pushing you or helping you in a specific way. It is helping you in every single way, in all ways. During the course of taking Rose as a flower essence, when I asked it for patience, when I asked her for patience, I received patience. When I asked her for ability to communicate, I received ability to communicate. When I asked her for creativity, she gave me creativity. It was like this very wild occurrence of, I sat down with this plant and this plant had been waiting for me to sit down and talk to her and just notice her. Not only that, but she has just been there the whole time, which is very similar to how Mary has always appeared in my life, is she's always been there. But in order to really understand her, I had to sit down and really look at her and really understand her, not as Mary, Mother of God, not as Mary of the church, but Mary, like our mother, Mary the Divine Mother, Mary as the woman who has been there for my family. That's what Rose did. When I'm looking at what it is, like Rose helped us get a house. I was ingesting Rose and doing the novena that my family has done when we got this place. And it happened. I use and still wear Rose perfume every day. As kind of an add-on. I mean, like these two herbal allies that I work with, Rue and Rose, I am wearing it every day. There's Rue water in my hair, it's sprayed on my clothes, there's Rose perfume on me, I'm wearing an oil with it in it. It's protection, self-love, connection to my guides and ancestors, but Rose has, so similarly to Mary, this other side to it, like the thorns of the rose bush. It is protection, it is boundaries, it is self-love, and it is sometimes soft and loving and patient and gentle. But Rose also teaches us that everyone has their stop. And if you don't stop, I go. And I think that's how much Rose has helped me, is I have been more okay with saying stop, and if you don't stop, I will leave. This is like combined effort of Rose and Rue. Rose is the plant of life, birth, death. Rose is the plant of love. Rose is the plant of protection. Rose is the plant of this amazing, all present acceptance of you, of yourself, of those around you, of saying, okay, this is where they are right now. I can choose to meet them there, or I can choose to walk. It's like this sense of loving boundaries that Rose pushes you to enforce yourself. Rose isn't gonna sit there and say, I'm forcing you to do this. Rose is gonna sit you down and say, this is your choice. do you want to do this or do you not want to do this? And for me, that's the power of Rose, because while working with her, you're just encouraged to choose love. Not just like, ooh, I love everyone, love and light. Love for yourself, love for the people around you. And sometimes that love is a hard decision. It's loving yourself enough to make really bad, hard choices because you know it's the right one. It's loving yourself enough to set boundaries and enforce them. It's loving yourself enough to know that those boundaries are set because you love yourself, because you want yourself to succeed and you are there. And that's the choice that you make. It's, do I love myself enough to do this? Am I patient? And do I love myself enough? Do I love this person enough to be patient with them and meet them where they are? The other side to it, the more kind of shadow side and the baneful side, is if I am pushed too far, if someone pushes my boundaries, if I have decided that this person is no longer worth my time and energy, thorns come out. I don't mind being the lovely flower of love and patience that you know and love. But I also don't mind pricking you if you get too close or you do something I don't like. And that is the beautiful power of Rose, because since then, and since working with these allies, I've been more intent with myself as well, with my own boundaries, with, you know what, I want to do this, I have a habit of doing this, I have an urge to do this, especially taking on things from other people, or just if they don't do it, I just do it myself, even if it's their job. That's just a general thing that I've always done. Like if someone says, I'm going to do the dishes, and they don't do the dishes, instead of being like, that's your job, I'm not fucking doing it, I just do them. So Rose and Rue together have been teaching me, don't touch that. I'm like, what do you mean? I'll just do it. No, it's your energy, it's your time, and both of those things are precious. And if someone makes a commitment, it is their job to stick with it. It is their job to do it, and it is not your responsibility to do it for them. I'm still learning. I'm still not good at it. I'm being very intentional with it. I'm being very, very intentional with it, especially in places where I feel like I can just do it, it's no problem, because it always actually is a problem. It's emotional labor for me. It's energy for me. There is another herb that has been helping me in that area, which is wild because it's the 3 spirits that I tend to work with a lot. Angelica, Saint Michael, Rose, Saint Mary, and Rue, Diana. I'm getting through triangulated. Me in the middle, and on all 3 sides, we got these 3 spirits just going, mind your boundaries. Love yourself. What the fuck are you doing? You can fix this problem. Such a good time. Like I said, I can't talk much about my relationship with Rue, but while Rose is subtle protection, Rue is the really harsh protection. It is harsh lessons in trust. It is harsh lessons in energy and what I can manage. While Rose is like, here's your choice, Rue is like, you know this shit's not good for you. And if you're gonna continue doing this, this is the outcome, and I will make it happen faster. It will happen, but I'll make it happen a little faster so you understand your lesson. Angelica is just like, what can you control in this situation? Focus on that. And I'm like, oh, me. Is that grass in there? Overall, working with these allies brought so many more relationships with different spirits into my life. And not only that, but it pushed me into a new and amazing direction. It helped me grow. It helped me connect further with my ancestors and on my reconnection journey. And it just pushed me in a way that I needed and I didn't expect, but I loved it. I loved every second of it. And that is kind of where I'm at with it. The person I am now is not the same person I was in January. It wasn't the same person I was a year ago. We are growing and evolving and changing every day in the same way that plants grow, change, evolve. Plant ancestors are so amazing to work with. And I think that if you are interested in learning more about plant ancestors, finding a class or taking Data Medicina by the root circle would be an amazing option for you. It's a great starting point. You are guided through it, and it was just overall one of the most amazing experiences. Go talk to a tree. That's the lesson today. Plants have so much to teach us. They have so much to teach us. They are our teachers, they are our ancestors, they are our living ancestors and our connections to ancestors that have passed. Because we may have used them in the same way. We may have both held them in our hands. We may have both formed relationships with them. And that is why they are so powerful and why they are so amazing when we really sit down and work with it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video today. If you have any questions about the class or getting started with Herbal Allies, let me know in the comments. If you want, you can subscribe, turn the bell on, and leave a like, but no pressure. Remember to drink water that hopefully doesn't have a plant in it, and enjoy the rest of your day. Siate benedetti.